Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. My name is Zoe Mithaug, and I am an Outreach Developer Advocate Intern with Developer Relations here at Vonage. Over the course of my internship, I have been learning about Vonage's APIs and how they can enhance and streamline communications in personal, professional, and academic settings. Since I am a student, I wanted to implement Vonage's Messages API by creating a platform where students can reserve office hours and be reminded by text message of their appointment and reservation information. While email is fine, text messages are simply checked more frequently and serve as better reminders. On behalf of the Developer Relations team, we are proud to offer numerous supporting and educating tools to help users get the most out of our amazing communication APIs. Feel free to get in touch with us at community@vonage.com. If you would like to follow along with this presentation, feel free to download the GitHub repository at the link posted. For this tutorial, we will be using Node.js, Express, SQLite, and the Vonage Messages API to create a dynamic and user-friendly web application. This web application allows students to reserve office hour time slots with their professors. Once an office hour reservation is booked, the student will receive a text message confirming the reservation using Vonage Messages APIs. We will be breaking down our programming logic into 3 different segments. The first being an interactive web app where a student can reserve an appointment, then a database where the information will be verified and stored, and finally, a confirmation text message that the student receives. Let's start by creating our HTML code for our web application. For our code, we will need to create 3 HTML templates to serve as our input form or the home page, our error page, and our confirmation page. After we create these templates, we will move to the engine that drives this web application in Node.js. To begin, we will start with creating a simple homepage where a user can input information such as their name, their phone number, their date of choice, their time preference, and any notes or comments that they have, all while using a basic web form. This form will be posted on our web application for processing. On the right, you can see a sneak peek of what our final rendered reservation page will look like. In our homepage code, we feature input fields that contain values that we can later access using Node.js. These values are known as appointment date, appointment time, professor, student first name, student last name, cell phone number, and student comments. Finally, we will be utilizing a button that submits the reservation form. In the event the user enters invalid data or there was an error processing the request, we will display an HTML error page informing the user what went wrong. This is a simple HTML page that will be processed by Node.js and display specific server-side variables via nunjucts that we set depending on what issue occurred. On the right, you can see a sneak peek of what our final rendered error page will look like. In our error page code, we feature variables enclosed by double brackets, for example, appointment date. These are our server-side variables that we echo out through Node.js. We will discuss this setup later on in this tutorial. Finally, we will create a return button. This button will return the user back to the home page if there was an error processing their reservation request. Now that we have an error response, we must also set up a confirmation response. This page will be displayed only if the request is successful. Similarly, this page will display all user input information. To begin, we will create a confirmation.html file and set it up similar to our error.html file with server-side nunjucts variables. On the right, you can see a sneak peek of what our final rendered confirmation page will look like. In our confirmation page code, we feature our server-side variables that we will derive from the student submitted form. These variables are known as appointment date, appointment time, professor name, student student phone number, and student notes. Finally, we will create a return button. This button will return the user back to the home page if the user wishes to create another reservation request. Now that we have our HTML files, let's create our CSS files that will format our web app. Feel free to create your own style sheet to further customize and format your web app. For this tutorial, we will use a specific set of styles for our input fields, calendar, and visual aesthetics. For our CSS files, we will be creating 3 style sheets in correspondence to our HTML files. So we will call these files confirmationstyles.css, arrowstyles.css, and indexstyles.css. Within each style sheet, the code will be the same and consist of text box forms, area box forms, and button styles. Before we get further in our tutorial, we will need to set up a Vonage account if one is not already created. This account allows us to access Vonage's Messages API. Additionally, we can purchase a phone number that can be used to send the text message. To create your account, go to dashboard.nexmo.com. Here, you can easily create an account for free using your name and email address. After creating your account, you will receive an API key and API secret. These Vonage credentials will be extremely important when sending out our text message using Vonage's Messaging API. Currently, you can register for free using Vonage API developer account and apply a special coupon by scanning the QR code or entering the code listed. If you have any issues, feel free to contact community@vonage.com. Now we can use the Vonage Messaging API with the API secret and API key that was provided upon your account setup. These credentials will allow us to send our confirmation text. These credentials should always be kept hidden for security reasons. Before we can start our backend implementation, we must create a file called .env. These files store our private API secret and API key and will be kept in our root directory of our project. Now, add the following variables to your .env file with your specific Vonage account information. To complete our web app, we will be adding functionality to our HTML files by using Node.js, Express, and SQLite. However, before we start coding, we will need to install Node.js and add a few more packages to our system. These dependencies will provide functionality and usability to our Node.js application. Now we will begin the main file of our project using Node.js. This project file will be known as index.js. This file includes all application functionality and database setup, which we will further cover in our presentation. In our index.js file, we are calling the Express instance web server. Also, we place our HTML files in a subdirectory called HTML that Nunjux is configured to look at. We set SQLite to use a database called reservations.db, which will be in the root directory of this web application. Additionally, we are hiding the API key and API secret variables that were given to us by Vonage Messages API in the .env file. Finally, we are setting the web server to listen to web requests on port 3000. This means that to run this application, you will need to specify this port. Now we will set our index.js code to provide 3 functions. The first function will set up the database that stores the reservation requests. The second function will display a home page where a student can submit an appointment request. Finally, our last function will process the student reservation request sent to /schedule, and upon review of the submission, will respond with either success or error. For this project, we will be using SQLite as the back-end database to store our information. However, you may use any database that works with Node.js. Now, we will create our setup database function. This will look to see if any appointments table exists in the reservation.db database. If the table does not exist, it will create it. However, depending on the database system you decide to use with Node.js, you will want to change the appointment date and appointment time to work with that engine's date-time functions. Our second function, known as display homepage, will simply listen for the request at the root directory. Then it will render our index.html file found in the HTML directory. You'll remember we already set up the index.html file to be the office hours reservation form. Post schedule is the workhorse of our web application. This process will listen for the /schedule handler and do some basic error checking of user input. Our error check is called validation check and only tests for empty string data and is set to false on failure. You'll want to do additional error checking for other bad data scenarios, such as invalid appointment dates and times. Now, if the submission data passes our rudimentary error checking process, we will save this information into our appointments table in the reservations.db database. We then encapsulate this information into a JSON object that we send to the backend Vonage Messages API for texting a confirmation message. Now we build our SQL insert statement using the variables we set from the HTML submission form, and we run that statement using the db.run function. Finally, we render the confirmation.html page, setting the nunjux variables to be displayed, and our confirmation message is sent. Now, I would like to demo this web application for you all today. Please bear with me as I switch tabs and run the code. Here you can see our office hours reservation form. The date selected is the current date for reservation. Under Select Professor, we have a few names such as Professor Nemoy, Dr. Rory, Professor Amanda, Professor Dwayne, and Dr. Zach. I would like to ask the chat if you would like to pick any specific professor. Perfect. I would like to also ask the chat if you would like to choose an appointment time. 11 a.m. it is. And for student first name, I'll just go ahead and put my name. And for student last name, I'll also put my last name. The student phone number I put in is a Vonage purchased phone number, which I will show in the dashboard. For comments, questions, and notes, would anyone like to write a specific message? So now the reservation has been confirmed, and I will go ahead and show you what the dashboard looks like. Here you can see what the dashboard looks like. Here you can see what the dashboard looks like on the Vonage API's messaging board. As you can see, we have our from phone number, our to from phone number, and our message. For this message, it says, "Dear Zoe Mithaug, you have successfully booked your appointment. Here are your additional notes. Book me, please." As you can see here, these are example images of our end result. On the left, you can see our confirmation page with sample information. On the right, you can see what the text message would look like on a mobile device. On the bottom, you can see what the message would look like on your Vonage dashboard. Thank you all so much for watching. I'd love to thank Amanda for always helping me and supporting me through this presentation. Most importantly, we'd love to connect with you on social media. Please see our links listed below. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, or get in contact with us through email or website. Thank you again, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Have a fantastic day, everyone, and thank you.